These are 5 cards players want banned in Commander.
I'm your host, Joe Cherries.
I'm your host, BZ, and that makes us the Nitpicking Nerds post-Christmas. Hope everyone had a great Christmas, and if you won a bunch of money in poker yesterday, I would love for you to give us some of that on Patreon. It's so specific, you have to listen. That would help us support us directly, and we'd love you as much as we can without making you uncomfortable.
Yes, that would be awesome if you support us via Patreon. You can also support us indirectly by buying cards for yourself using our TCG Player affiliate link in the description below. As long as you start with our link, then you buy Magic cards, guess what? Nerds get a kickback, you spend no extra money, and you get the same cards.
Channel sponsored by Moxfield. Mid-roll ad, guess where it is? You're going to fail. And happy birthday to everyone's birthday is today.
We're talking about 5 super hot button cards today. Cards that absolutely could be banned in Commander based on some of the Rules Committee's outlines for bans, and that players have mentioned definitely wanting to be banned.
Yeah, all 5 of these cards have had some kind of push in the past year or so to be banned, or a call for a ban, or at least a discussion about it. We're not necessarily advocating for bans of these cards. We're just talking about, hey, this is what happened. This is why these cards fit in and could be banned, and we're discussing whether we agree or disagree. Would we ban this card? Well, we'll tell you. We're not going to go too crazy on it, but we'll tell you.
Exactly. And, again, just because we're going to talk about points on both sides of each card, right? So it's not like we're going to tell you why it should be banned, why it shouldn't be banned, and just talk about the cards overall and trying to be as objective as possible. But we'll obviously share our opinions with you as well.
We're not even going to use the word should, why it could be banned or why it might not be banned.
That's fair.
Yeah, this is based on, obviously, we have to base bans on the criteria for bans, which, as far as we know, the closest bit of information we have to that is the Commander's Rules Committee, mtgcommander.net. You can go check the actual ban list and what they look at for bans. It's kind of weird because there's no actual rock-solid criteria. They give you a list of problematic things a card could do and then say, well, card can meet all of these or none of these, and there's other factors that we didn't mention, and they all can or can't lead to a ban. So it's a little nebulous, but we're still going to list them all. But they say in the philosophy sheet, the primary focus of the ban list is on cards which are problematic because of their extreme consistency, ubiquity, and or ability to restrict others' opportunities. So there's a lot of that laid out in every card we're about to mention.
And the first one that is literally trending on Twitter every other day, if you're a Magic person, you will see this. It is Drannith Magistrate. It's a 1/3, and it basically says players can't cast their commanders. It also prevents other spells from being casted. But the key is it's a 2-mana 1/3 that prevents players from playing their commander.
Yeah, so a lot of people have brought up, hey, isn't this like exactly against the entire spirit of the format? And it really does not vibe with it. Doesn't need a ban is the question. It's obviously like not the most fun card. The things that it does that the Rules Committee has highlighted, the first one, prevents meaningful contribution. Not being able to play your commander in a game of Commander, whether this card is good, bad, or medium, if it's starting to see play, that's kind of lame, especially for like new players. They show up and like, oh, I'm building my deck. Commander's all about self-expression, except for you can't play it.
Yeah, and the idea when you build a commander deck is you do build a deck where the central part is your commander that you have access to every single game, and Drannith Magistrate does shut that off. And very consistently, it is only 2 mana, and it comes out quick, it comes out early. It also interacts poorly overall with the rules of Commander. The idea of Commander is that you have access to your commander every game, and this card does remove that when it's on the battlefield.
And the worst possible argument in favor of this card staying on the ban list, I'm not saying it should or shouldn't be banned, but this argument is hot garbage, is that it's a 1/3 that has no protection and dies to removal. Everything dies to removal. It's like the biggest Magic fallacy of just saying, well, if it can be removed, you shouldn't be complaining about it. It's like people are allowed to complain about it if they want. If they hate this card and want to remove it from their playgroup and they want to tell you on Twitter, I don't understand why that needs to be argued about.
And Commander is, without a doubt, the casual format of self-expression. So telling players that in order for them to be able to play their commander in a game, they need to up the removal count in their deck is also telling players how to play the format. We advocate for removal every single chance we get.
When you want to upgrade your deck, but some people don't care about that.
Exactly. We are huge removal advocates. We're going to sit here and tell you, when you're looking for making some improvements, you want removal. You want 10 plus in your deck. That said, not every player wants to play 10 removal. Some players just want to watch other players go off, and they want to interact as little as possible. And that is a completely legitimate way to play. In Drannith Magistrate, what it does is force players into playing a higher amount of removal just so they can play their commander and play the format ideally. Now, obviously, there are arguments for and against this card. This is not a card. This one is funny to me because of all the cards on here, this is without a doubt the weakest.
The least powerful. Yeah, that's what I was going to
But
say.
it might be the most bannable based on the outlines, right?
If you're if you're really looking to encourage fun and expression in playing commanders, then maybe it is the most bannable and least powerful. I mean, if you want to take out the stupid, let's remove the dice removal of the creature thing. If there's just some terrible sorcery that's like 6 mana and somehow removes all commanders from the command zone, you can never access them ever. That card sucks. It's not good. And it can be countered, but that's like the least commander card I can ever think of.
Exactly, and that is the problem. It goes so far against what the idea of commander is. Drannith Magistrate is just overall not a fun designed Magic card.
It doesn't need to be broken. It's just, hey, it's pretty good, but really, like, so far not gelling with commander. It's kind of funny.
And I also think there's a really interesting point because there are things that also would undoubtedly make this bannable. If this is a 2-mana colorless creature, it's a banned card because it will be
ubiquity and the repetitive gameplay.
Exactly. You will see this in every deck now because now this is a free roll for every single deck. It's a 2-mana colorless creature. It also, if it costs 1 white pip, I think this is also an extremely bannable card. So this effect is very annoying and would be banned under certain circumstances. Is this card to the point where it should be banned? I think it's pretty close. I personally,
where do we fall?
Where do I fall? I fall in the spot where I think I'm kind of on. I would ban it personally, but I understand the exact argument for why not to ban it. Just stop sitting on Twitter and telling me about how it's ice removal.
Or how you should play commander.
Yeah, stop telling players they have to play removal. They can't. If you don't play removal, you're not allowed to complain. That is garbage. Of course you are allowed to complain about something that is unfun, regardless of if you play removal. You get to say expropriate's unfun just because you don't play counterspells. It's still an unfun card.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So this one, for me, I think I could definitely see it being banned. I don't really have too much of a horse in the race, but I will say, if you throw like draw a card on this and make it like 3 mana, maybe that's a bannable card or something.
I mean, I think if it's
as soon as there's a version of this that's like, whoa, it's kind of free to play. Ooh.
I think the problem is white decks that play a high creature count, you have an Oketra deck currently, and you don't play this out of a fun reason. This is a good Euro Oketra deck should play this card. If you're pushing more up the power chain, this card is very strong, very good, and very powerful. And honestly, the reason it's not ubiquitous across the format is because of Rule 0 that keeps this thing from being in every good white deck.
Next is possibly the card that the most players in the entire format want banned. It's Dockside Extortionist. Every once in a while, someone's going to complain about this card. It's really annoying. It's 2 mana 1/2, and an ETBs and makes treasure for each artifact and enchantment in your opponent's control. And I will say, one of the funniest things I've ever heard in my entire life was we were in the Discord asking people, what cards they think are the worst or the most bannable. If they could ban one card, what would they do? And somebody was saying that Dockside Extortionist is only good because people just keep putting artifacts and enchantments in their deck, and all you have to do to play around this card existing is take artifacts and enchantments out of your deck. That was the funny, what? Sorry, that person, you just got called out.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. You build your deck how you build your deck, regardless of Dockside existing.
I mean, if there's cards that exist that make you not put cards in your deck, that's like Banlist 101, baby.
And also, on top of that, Dockside Extortionist feeds on mana rocks. And mana rocks are very necessary for the non-green decks, right? Because non-green decks do need a way to match ramp with green decks. Like, green decks obviously excel to the moon on ramp. So to match that, you're playing, your 2 mana rocks, your soul rings. I mean, all of that kind of stuff in your deck. You want to match what green can do. If you're going to take artifacts and enchantments out of your deck, all of a sudden you can't ramp anymore?
Like, yeah, what a weird thing to say. But if you want to get the Dockside rap sheet, it causes severe resource imbalances.
So fast.
Getting you 7 treasures for 2 mana, or 5 mana for 2 mana, or whatever you want to do, on an ETB, which can be flickered or reanimated. Difficult to interact with and requires dedicated, narrow responses. How do you stop them from getting treasures? You have to stifle the trigger or counter the spell? It's not like, remove the Dockside. Dockside doesn't do anything. It makes 100 treasures, and those do something.
Yeah, exactly. The Dockside is essentially nothing. And this thing is incredibly repetitive. Like, so many different lines go infinite because of Dockside.
I mean, it's the best red card in the format, so you're going to see it all the time.
Yeah, you see it non-stop. And when you're playing in especially higher power games, it starts doing the exact same thing. It's like produces a ton of mana for them to go off and do whatever their combo is from there. Or sometimes it is the combo piece. It's so good, it is the combo piece sometimes.
Yep, Dockside is just everywhere for every reason. It's like, it's bled into casual, definitely. And as far as like, would I ban Dockside? In my own universe, yes. I don't know if I put myself in the rules committee's heads if I could ban this card. Do they have enough of a reason? Is it ubiquitous enough? I feel like it is.
Dockside is super interesting because when it's played in certain games, it hasn't made me eye roll as much in our lower power games. Like
True, yeah. When
it's
we
still
play
great.
against it, it's not like the end of the world, but we're not trying to go infinite.
This card's exactly. This card is still very, very good. Like I'm not trying to say that when we play in our lower power decks, it's not good. It's still a very strong card, and sometimes it is an eye roller depending on the situation. If you're playing against an artifact deck, it's like, wow,
here we go.
Here we go. This thing's insane. But regardless of that, it doesn't feel super busted for me in low power when you're not infinite comboing.
And I feel like that's what Commander mostly leans towards. Like Dockside or Dranith is unfun kind of across the board. Dockside being like mega broken or comboing off is not a problem across the board. So I don't know where. I think maybe we can leave this one off for now, but it's obviously one of the strongest red card in the format.
I agree. I think it's one of the strongest red cards. I don't think I would ban Dockside.
It's not a good design, if you want to know that.
I think my final verdict would be I wouldn't ban this card. But I obviously see the arguments for it. This card can cause extreme repetitive gameplay, and it is super hard to interact. Like how do you stop the treasures? Do you have to play Stony Silence in your deck? That card stinks. That's unfun.
Oh boy,
that card's good. Actually, I meant to say that card's good. That card is so unfun.
Stinks to play against. They are. Oh, it requires answers that are also problematic. You say, yes. One thing that's not problematic is Moxfield.com because they are a website, so I don't know how problematic they could be when they pretty much offer no opinion on any.
Have you seen Twitter?
I was going to say they pretty much offer no opinion on anything other than, hey, here's the best way to build decks. They get you your sorting, your sort by price, your Card Kingdom or TCG prices. You can playtest your deck. You can sort your deck. You can check what the last ads in your deck were if you totally forgot.
Yes. Okay. I know there's some people out there who are looking at their screen right now on their computer, and it's in light mode. Now imagine going to Moxfield and seeing light mode, and your eyes are burning. They have dark mode.
They have dark mode.
They have dark mode.
They're with the times.
I mean it when I say dark mode is like a huge upgrade. YouTube Studio just upgraded the dark mode, and oh my God, I'm so happy. So Moxfield.com, thank you for always having dark mode in your heart.
Yes, and now you can start thinking, since Christmas is over, it's only 365 days till Christmas. Get your significant others and your best friends, get them Moxfield next Christmas for $0.
Or a Thassa's Oracle, which is the next card on our
Whoa!
list. Thassa's Oracle is one of the most ubiquitous win cons, especially in high power games, CEDH especially.
Definitely boogeyman status.
It is, this card might win a solid 1 out of 4 CEDH / high power, not just CEDH, CEDH just high power games. It wins a lot. This card is powerful, it is strong, and it is a great way to win the game through milling yourself.
Whatever power level you're at, if you're self-milling, comboing, or just drawing your whole deck, guess what? This card's still great, and we want to talk about the rap sheet. There's one that we haven't got to yet, which is allow players to win out of nowhere. To me, that's kind of a big one on cards I want or don't want in the format. This is the poster child of that. If you want a demonic consultation or leveler or whatever, 2 cards out of nowhere, you win. And when you do that, it's very difficult to interact with. Counterspell, stifle, endurance or bust, basically. Requires dedicated, very narrow responses, especially if you're not blue. And it leads to repetitive gameplay because it's the best thing to do.
Yeah, exactly. Thassa's Oracle and Dockside do have a lot in common in that way, in that these are 2-mana ETBs. You're not, you can't act, you're not going to stop it once it hits the battlefield.
Yeah.
This card is so strong in how it's made that you get to go Thassa's Oracle first and then the card that exiles your deck, meaning you don't just lose. You're playing Labman, you put yourself in the situation to lose.
Draw card is now on the stack. Labman may or may not live.
Exactly, and that is a much easier thing to interact with. Now, obviously, these are similar cards to that, but Thoracle is so far and above that it's kind of weird to think about, because when you look at Labman, it's it's the same card as Thassa's Oracle, but it's no, it's not. This card is just far and away the best version of this we've ever seen.
Yeah, and I see this a lot in lower power too, where it's this is my draw my cards deck, and guess what guess how I'm gonna win. It's oh boy, can't wait.
Yeah, exactly, and it feels cheap sometimes.
This is my Simic deck. I go really big and then never attack you. All right, okay.
Yeah, exactly, where it's you draw your whole deck, and I've almost grown tired of it at this point. I think I've seen it so many times. I draw my whole deck, I play Thassa's Oracle, I win.
It certainly doesn't interest us. How about, would we ban it, or do we think it should or shouldn't be banned?
This one is really, really super interesting to me. Thassa's Oracle is incredibly powerful. And I think if you're talking about like what is actually like wins the most games of Commander, this has to be it. Like, I don't think there is a single card that I could point out that wins more games than Thassa's Oracle directly. Because there's...
Craterhoof to me and Expropriate are really high.
Even those, like Craterhoof and Expropriate being high, I think Thoracle, like how good it is in higher power games, wins way more.
But I also do think that the Rules Committee does not really... It sounds rude, but I don't think they care about the high power stuff. Like, if you want to list high powered format warping as a reason to ban a card, I don't think that's going to get you any traction.
Yeah, I think it's fair. So if we're looking at the lower power and we're not taking higher power into consideration, I don't think this is a ban.
Yeah, if it's just like kind of annoying and I think it's very uninspired and like played to death, is that bannable?
I also probably wouldn't ban Thoracle. I mean, I think Thoracle is a super annoying, and when I do play the higher power games, it does drive me nuts, but I really don't think I would ban it.
Yeah, a lot of cards on the ban list. I want the ban list to be like broken cards that can never contribute to a fun game, or can just break the game in half, restart the game. Like, that's the kind of stuff I want.
Or they do like Janeth Magistrate type things where they actively remove fun.
Or discourage you from playing Commander.
Like they stop players from doing something that is fun. Like, I could honestly see, and I'm not saying this should be the case, so don't come at me in the comments.
Here we go.
I could see a ban list where you put all the things like Stasis. You put Winter Orb, you put all of these things onto the ban list. Now I'm saying you should do that. No, I'm not.
Joe can see a world.
I can see a world where that is a thing you do, where cards that remove this layer of fun by making players not contribute, which is one of the things they do mention in their own rules, are things that are banned.
You've probably expected this next one 3 times now. It's Soul Ring. If you want to put Mana Crypt in parentheses, go for it. But Soul Ring actually gets way more talk of being banned, even though I think Mana Crypt is just a better card. Maybe that's for a different video. But Soul Ring, if you haven't heard of it, 1 mana artifact, taps for 2, causes severe resource imbalances, definitely prevents meaningful contribution when you're slinging off and storming spells and you're on turn 4 already and they're playing their second land and passing. And it definitely leads to repetitive gameplay because guess what? It's in every single deck.
I know this card is a poster child for the format, but it doesn't have to be.
I don't get that.
And I understand, like, it does let players do cool pop-off things sometimes, but I also think, and I stick by this and I will always say it, Soul Ring has ruined more Game of Commanders than any card.
That's one of our catchphrases.
And it's not even close.
Not even remotely close.
I think for the past almost 3 years now that we've been doing this channel, we've been advocates of actually banning this one. This one is not like a card that I even think... I understand the other side. I don't agree with it at all.
Nope. The other side, I think, mostly falls on argument from tradition. Oh, we've always had Soul Ring, or Soul Ring is part of the things that have led to Commander being more popular. Totally irrelevant to whether or not this card should be banned or meets the criteria to be banned. It's not a person. We don't owe it anything. Also, like, if you ban Soul Ring, green is now the best color. It's like, green has always been the best color for ramp. Green decks aren't going to suddenly dominate. There's no meta. People are just going to play whatever they want. Some color has to be the best at everything. I do not understand how suddenly, when every deck loses access to this card, green is now, soul-crushingly better.
I've also heard a lot of people mention this very specific thing, that it's in every precon, and if it's because it's in every precon, once you ban it, every precon is not a legal deck now, which I've heard, and it feels like you're trying to keep these precons playable, but it's like, how many people are buying precons that aren't the new ones? It is, comparatively to the new ones, it's astronomically low, right? Like, it's always going to be like that. The newest precon is always the best-selling precon because that's what's out, that's what's available. So the new precons will always be legal because they won't have Soul Rings going forward if it's going to be banned.
Right, and can't we kind of agree that's not our problem? Like, if Wizards wants to print a card in a bunch of products, but it's not, doesn't gel with Commander, and it's like, if they just keep printing Primetime in a bunch of things, it's not like we can't ban it now.
And another, there's just so many arguments for this. Everyone has access to this card. It being a 50-cent, $1, $2 card that everybody can have, that everyone can easily obtain.
That Wizards pushes.
Because they want everyone to be able to have it, I don't think makes this card...
Does that redeem it?
Redeem it.
That everyone can ruin a game of Commander?
Exactly. The imbalance that this card really causes in games is really unmatched by anything else. The games where somebody goes Soul Ring into Signet, I sometimes scoop because they are untapping with access to 5 lands, and if they went first before me, I have 1 mana in play as they untap with 5 lands. That is such a huge disparity in resources caused purely by Soul Ring, and Mana Crypt could do it, but it's caused purely by the Soul Ring, and this happens all the time. This is Soul Ring into Signet is such a common commander play in like lower not even lower part, like every single meta in Magic. It's so silly. Like I honestly, this is the one where it's like it is the one single card I would ban out of Commander right now if you gave me a magical ban hammer that I could hit one card. It's Soul Ring. It's not close.
Soul Ring every time.
And Mana Crypt staying because I'd rather have the 200 version of it that people have less of.
And when that gets affordable, ban that one too. Or if I get 2 ban hammers, I'll ban both. But like, can't stand it. Ruins more games than anyone else. The fact that anyone has access to a card that I think can ruin games, how is that not even worse? Like, I don't think that's better. So obviously we're advocates for banning Soul Ring.
Huge advocates. Like
if you want to leave it legal, I'm not going to quit Magic.
It's kind of our soapbox, right? Like we've been on this soapbox for years where it's like I don't think it's going to get banned, and I'm not saying that it has to be banned, and if it doesn't get banned, Sheldon Menery has a poop head. I'm not saying any of that, but I am saying I do honestly believe, like wholeheartedly, that this card should be 100% banned in this format.
I haven't really heard an argument for it that makes sense to me.
I haven't heard it. They make sense. Like, I understand where people are coming from, but I disagree.
I actually just kind of don't understand
that's fair. Like I think
it just feels like most of what they're saying is not relevant or true.
And a lot of
not
it
that, I'm not.
Like I really do like the point that you made about how it's a fallacy. The appeal to tradition is it's really not a good argument
for anything.
It's a fallacy, right? Like, appeal to tradition is just a logical fallacy.
Something is right or correct because it's been done in the past.
It's like, no, exactly. It's like Soul Ring is good for the format because it helped the format before, but it's like, no, that's not true here. But like I said, Soul Ring I think is going to stay in this format forever, but I would prefer it out.
Yeah, I will just stop playing it forever. I mean, we don't have to play it also. So.
Exactly. Yeah, we literally don't put it in our decks ever. Like, not unless we're literally building something that's intended to be CDH or high power. Not touching Soul Ring.
All right, last one. This might be top 3 strongest cards in the format, and if this card was $1, I would actually be aggravated if it was still legal. This is Gaia's Cradle. It's like $1,000, but it taps for green for each creature you control, and it's a land. So we get causes severe resource imbalances, causes players to feel they must play cards, even though they're also problematic, which is one we have not had. It's a land. You got to play land destruction, which is already taboo, and something that people can't slot or won't slot into their decks to remove this card that is going to beat the crap out of you in like 10 seconds. And it leads to repetitive gameplay, probably more than any other card on here, because guess how easy it is to find lands. So we got Tempt with Discovery, we got Expedition Map, Crop Rotation. Like, there's 7 more, and I'm not going to list them, but there's a million. This will always be in play.
Exactly, and that's a huge point to this card. Green is really good at searching up lands, and not just basics. They search up non-basics very, very easily. There are probably 10 to 20 good Magic cards in the Commander format that go get any land out of your deck. And with that said, this card really is just really broken. Somebody made a great point. BZ pointed out that BZ made a short, and in that short, BZ mentioned that Field of Dead is a fun card, and someone made a really good point that I just agreed with, where he's like, Field of Dead isn't a fun card. It forces people to play very narrow responses, and because of that, it's actually a pretty unfun card. It's like, that's a great point. It's like, I like Field of Dead.
And we love that card, but it kind of says play Demolition Field.
Exactly. You have to be playing the Strip Mines, the Wastelands, these, and the Demolition Field.
Which is why it's so good, because nobody does that.
Exactly, because it's so hard to interact with. You have to have the Beast Within, the Chaos Warp, like these like very narrow answers that sometimes you can't. It's like, when you're spending 3 mana to answer their land drop, that feels really rough, right? It always feels terrible. Or maybe they spent 2 mana to ramp it out, or whatever they did.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's so, lands like that are really hard to answer, and because they're so hard to answer, they do become unfun in a lot of ways.
Now picture it tapping for 6 right away. It's like, if you ever play like against a mono black deck that's like, guess what I'm going to get out? Cabal Coffers and Cabal Stronghold every game. This is way worse. But the only thing that's keeping it unbanned, I would assume, is the players can't afford it, players don't play it, players don't want to play it, the like rule 0 type thing. And if that's like a big factor, sure, I will then say I think it's really weird to have price factor into bans and availability factor into bans. I feel like a card is either against the format or with the format. Kind of like I may be a Sith for saying that.
I wish that I could sit down and like obviously the rules committee is they more like to work within themselves with each other and figure out things. I really wish I could sit down with the rules committee and actually see why is the Gaius Cradle not banned? Get their exact reasons. I think that'd be super interesting because, like you said, it feels like the main reason is availability. The fact that not everyone has this card. Because if everyone had Gaius Cradle, I would assume this card would be banned like that. Because this Gaius Cradle...
What does this do that is not miserable?
Like you said, Gaius Cradle is probably the third best card in this format.
Behind Sol Ring and Mana Crypt.
Yeah, exactly. It's and if it's not, it's 100% the best land. It's not even close. And this card is in Commander. I mean, Tolarian Academy is a better card, right?
Right, but then why isn't Tolarian Academy legal? Because it's the same category. It's above far and away 99% of the cards in the format, but no one's going to play Tolarian Academy.
Yeah, exactly, because it wouldn't be very.
I'm not really sure. What's the difference?
That's very good point. So, as many people it would be just as unaffordable and in just as few decks because of availability. What's funny is if you ever thought I was going to get them banned, you can get them for $60. It's so funny.
Maybe we should get one. Maybe the rules committee's going to hear this.
I don't think we ever get one. Gaius Cradle is a card I think 100% I would ban too. This is
I would ban it, and or to be spiteful, I would then suddenly work at Wizards, print the Gaius Cradle legal proxy secret lair, and watch it get banned.
I would just to see if it would.
Yeah, because it has to.
I would assume so too. I assume if everyone has access to Gaius Cradle,
even as a proxy, it's gone.
It's got to go out of the format. This card would just be. It would be every game. Every green deck would spam Cradle. This Cradle is the best land as soon as it taps for 2 mana.
Yeah,
and this thing can tap for 5, 6, 7, 8. If you're popping off 20, it can go off so hard.
Seriously. So if you're wondering where these 5 cards stacked up, we asked people on YouTube, which card of the 5, if you can only ban one, would you ban? So in the order of least bannable, let's say, to most bannable.
It's on screen. You can see the numbers.
Yeah, we got Drann's Magistrate number 5. We got Gaius Cradle number 4. Sol Ring at number 3. Thassa's Oracle at number 2. And Dockside squeaking it out at number 1 with 32% of the vote. So kind of people aren't really in agreement with us. This maybe is a different perspective. Maybe they're playing in more casual pods and they're seeing these cards. Or they're playing in higher power pods and they're having issues. But we don't have a CDH audience. So we're not getting the people who play CDH to respond.
Players' interaction with the format is all completely different. That's why I love and what is so interesting about this. I think the thing about Dockside is it's a very ubiquitous card. Like you said, you see it everywhere. And I think we've been almost conditioned as players to accept that Sol Ring is here to stay. I think
it's a condition. It's everyone has it.
It's funny.
Someone said this was great.
If I was in a room with all 5 of these cards, and I could ban 2. I'd ban Sol Ring twice, so I'd get Mana Crypt.
Ban Sol Ring twice.
I really would. Sol Ring really just needs to get out of this format.
If you want to know what else we would ban? There's a whole video about it right here. It's a little bit more opinion-based. So if you want to check it out, I'll give you a high 5.
This is a fun video. Peace out, Tribe Scouts.